Hey, what's up, tubers? It's Tony, and today I'm at the junkyard making a video for one of my subscribers who is a first timer. He's out in California. He needs to know where his output transmission speed sensors are located and his input transmission speed sensor is located on his 2011 Ford Fiesta. For those of you who are constantly asking me, how do you remove a transmission speed sensor in a video, pay attention. I want you to know that all transmission speed sensors, by the way, is not the same as your ABS wheel sensor. Camshaft sensors and crankshaft sensors all come out and go in the same way. Many of them are retained by a 10mm bolt, 8mm bolt, or a 7mm bolt, okay? The transmission speed sensors on this 11 Fiesta, it's located on the driver's side of the transmission, okay? Because I'm at the junkyard and somebody already tore the motor apart and all that stuff, I don't have to do a lot, but I'll show you your best way of approaching this, so hold tight. So what you would do is jack the driver's side up, place it on a jack stand, remove the wheel well material, and go in there and look for the red electrical connector for the most part, and there are your two sensors, okay? The gray sensor on your right, I believe, is your output transmission speed sensor, and the black one is your input transmission speed sensor. How will you know if these sensors have gone bad, guys? Well, first of all, your check engine light will come on. You'll scan the vehicle and get some sort of code telling you so. Also, your vehicle, your transmission will act kind of funny, and you probably won't be able to drive more than 35 or 40 miles per hour, okay? It won't go above that range for some reason when these sensors have failed. If you are unsure what any particular sensor looks like, you can always go to rockauto.com. In this case, for the speed sensors, put in your vehicle's information, click on the electrical category, click on speed sensors, and it will give you pictures of what the sensor looks like. So if your output transmission speed sensor looks like that gray one, it should look like that on Rock Auto. If your input on the left looks like this one here, it should look like that on Rock Auto. How do you get the electrical connector loose for these sensors? Pull this little red tab forward, push down on that gray tab, and you can pull the electrical connector away from the sensor, okay? When you're done, make sure that you put your sensor back in and seat it correctly, and make sure that you push this in until it goes all the way in, and then lock that little tab in the end. Some sensors will come out easily by just wiggling them back and forth, and others won't. All transmission speed sensors, their O-rings need to be coated with fresh transmission fluid. Camshaft sensors and crankshaft sensors, their new O-rings get coated with fresh motor oil. So, put your new sensor back in its housing, make sure it's seated, put your 10mm retaining bolt in, tighten it till it's nice and snug, and then back off, guys. Take your electrical connector, put it back over, push it down, and then you always want to make sure you lock that little tab back into place. So let's say this sensor won't come out easily, and trust me, eventually you're going to run into that. Wiggle it back and forth to try and break it free. If it doesn't come loose, I usually just turn it to about right there. Go to Harbor Freight, get yourself a set of these pry bars. They come in a set of 4. Take the pry bar, wedge it up against something, and gently put it under that sensor and begin to force that sensor out of its housing, okay? There you go. Remember, before you put your new speed sensor into its housing, put fresh transmission fluid around the O-ring, put it back in, bolt it down, put your electrical connector back on. Remember, the electrical connector is the type that you push up, and then you can push that tab in and separate it. I'm going to put this back in there, guys, because I don't need these sensors and somebody else may need them. Now I'm going to show you where your camshaft sensors are located on this vehicle and how to get it out. On the Ford Fiesta, face the windshield, okay? Look for this item here, come straight in, camshaft sensor number 1, camshaft sensor number 2. The electrical connector is the type of tab that you just push down, and then you can pull the electrical connector away from the sensor, remove your 8mm retaining bolt, If this sensor does not come out when you grab it and wiggle it back and forth, your pry bar. Find yourself a soft spot, slowly work it in there, and eventually you'll be able to break the sensor free from its housing. Always be careful, guys, not to damage the mating surface around here, or you can cause a leak, okay? Coat it with fresh motor oil, the O-ring, put the sensor back in its housing, put your bolt in, put your electrical connector back in, and for the most part, you're done, okay? So that's where your 2 camshaft sensors are located on this vehicle. Again, for those of you who ask, how do you remove a crankshaft position sensor? It's the same way I showed you with the speed sensor in this video and the camshaft sensors. Now I'm going to show you where the crankshaft position sensor is on this vehicle. It's located at the front of the vehicle at the bottom of the engine. There is your crankshaft position sensor on this particular vehicle, identified by the blue housing. To get the electrical connector tab loose, that little pin there, just push it inward, and then you can pull the electrical connector away. There's a 8mm retaining bolt back there. Break that loose, and let's say you were trying to break the sensor free and it doesn't come out. Remember your handy dandy pry bar set. Find a soft spot somewhere around the sensor's housing, wedge it up under there, and then start slowly breaking that sensor free from its housing. Take your time, but eventually you'll break it free and get it out, okay? That's how I do it each and every time. So for those of you who constantly ask me, how do you get a crankshaft position sensor out? This is how you get it out, okay? Goes right back in the same way you took it out, okay? With any sensor, transmission speed sensor, camshaft sensor, crankshaft sensor, you always want to reset your check engine light with a scan tool. Disconnecting the battery for 20 or 30 minutes does not always remove the hard codes. And why would you need to replace your crankshaft position sensor? You come out one day, your vehicle doesn't start, you scan it and get code P0335, which tells you that you need a new crankshaft position sensor. Okay, so I hope this video has been helpful, guys, and thanks for watching.